welcome to today's episode of what we call the Chairman's Chat. This is an opportunity where we have to talk with candidates that are the Republican nominees. And today we're really excited and happy to have Jaren Davis with us. Jaren is running for the 46th House District, and so it's Cottonwood Heights, and it's just right next to where I live. So it's Cottonwood Heights,
east part of Midvale, south part of Murray, south part of Holiday. So I'm everything north of you. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, it's good. And Jaren, do you want to just give us a little background? What is it that first of all, what is it that you do? And you've got kind of an interesting background and unique life experience that I think has made you uniquely qualified to be the next House member. But give us a little sense about that.
I will, but Derek, let me begin by offering gratitude to you and the party for your engagement, for your willingness to help and support. It is not something that has been felt before. And it brings me energy to feel the energy that's coming from our party. And so I know
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, your energy, your leadership has changed things for us, which that motivation keeps us going in times that sometimes might be difficult. So let me begin by saying
thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. We've got a great team, and it's been a kind of a unique year. We've all had a unique experience, and you've been campaigning at this. I mean, what are some of the changes you've had to deal with yourself, kind of like us at the party, but as a candidate, we're all dealing with this. So you've seen what we've tried to do. What have you done as a candidate to kind of adjust to it?
One of the things that's interesting, running for a political office is unique in itself, and we could cover that. But let's look at our lives and the disruption that we've faced since March, and how we've been placed basically on hold or put into environments that we're not necessarily accustomed to or comfortable with. And that is that we're staying at home, that we're wearing face masks, that businesses were closed that we're used to patronizing, whether it be a movie theater, the sport events or whatever it's like. Our lives have changed. We've gone to Zoom conferencing and things like that. And what I'm finding unique at this time is that's built up some pent up emotion. And
I think we're seeing that all over right now.
It's a little bit crazy. And before the pandemic, we knew that individuals that were behind the screen and on keyboards might have a little bit different portrayal in terms of their communication than they would if we were just in person. And so we're living in a time with that frustration and locked behind computers. And so what I think it's done is it's engaged us in an environment that we're not accustomed to or comfortable with. It seems like the media has taken the two extremes, the extreme right and the extreme left, defined it on both sides and telling us this is why we should hate each other. When in reality, that's not even truth.
Yeah.
When we're out on the street, when we're meeting with people, whether we're discussing politics or not, whether they're within our party or not, the fact is that we're finding common bonds. We all have hope in America. We believe in the American dream. We have faith in the future. And as human beings, we want that. And so what is satisfying, particularly at this time, is that while I'm out meeting with people, I'm finding that humankind is good as we've always believed. And while we might have differences sitting there reading these different stories, when we come together and talk about it, we realize that 99% of our day is found in common bonds. And it's when we find those and move together for a brighter future, then we're uniting. The other thing that's a little bit unusual, I thanked you to start, and it really does mean a lot, but there's a lot of people that are engaged and active out in the neighborhoods too.
Sure.
I've
seen that in my neighborhood as well.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's not uncommon for me today to receive a phone call as recently as yesterday. Nate Woodward, if you're watching, Nate gave me a call out of the blue. He's not a delegate. He's just an interested neighbor in his neighborhood, in his community, in the state. And he wants people that represent him in elected office. He learned a little bit about me from a friend, went to my website and called and said, Jaren, I'm behind you 110%. I go, Nate, do I really know you?
Is this someone that you knew beforehand?
I didn't know
you
him
didn't know
from
who this was?
Adam. Our first meeting in person You get excited about those kind of
Yeah.
circumstances. I went out and drove to his house. He wanted 12 signs.
That's great.
Take the signs out there. We start to talk on his front porch. An hour later, we're concluding with our conversation. We have a friendship and a bond now, and that's not uncommon. I across my entire district, I can think of Maddie Tapp on the extreme west side of the district, and what a dedicated individual she is as a mother of a small family, and how she too wants to engage to make sure that her interests are represented on the Hill, and believes that I'm capable of doing in that. And I could move through the district. Maddie's younger.
Yeah.
I could move up and introduce you to a gentleman, Brent Black, who's a man that I've known for a long time, have a great deal of respect for. Older, suffering a little bit in health. And when I sit down and talk to him, even though he might be facing his last days, he too has concern about the future of Utah, because his family's going to be living in this experience. And so you've got this spectrum of individuals that is absolutely extraordinary. And we can go occupational.
What are the themes you're seeing? I mean, because I love that you're talking to people sort of across the spectrum, and the fact that there are people that may disagree with you. I mean, when I served in the legislature, some of my closest friends were Democrats with whom I disagreed all the time,
Right.
but we were still friends,
Right.
because we respected each other, and we could have a civil and friendly dialogue, and we could leave still being friends and still respecting each other's opinion, and still voting in completely opposite directions.
Right.
But so I love that you kind of approach it like that. What are the issues that you're seeing? I mean, as you're talking to people, what are they saying in Cottonwood Heights and Holiday and Midvale, those areas?
Let me add a little bit to that, because your experience on the Hill is absolutely accurate, and I hope that is everyone's experience. On the campaign trail, the thing that might be different is that individual then has to make a decision whether or not they support somebody by electing for them. And so what I'm finding in those circumstances, when I come across an individual from the Democrat Party, and we talk through the issues, we find a common bond, and they say they'll support me. I won't say that's every time, but I'll say it's a high percentage as what I would be accustomed to in different years. So what are those subjects? Well, in our area right now, there's some motivation and some emotion around police. Our community was actually, in our district, our community was involved with a protest or a riot, however you want to describe it.
I remember that's my neighborhood as well, my community as well. So because I live not far from you.
And let's even use the word peaceful gathering. So it started out, but the public safety, whether it be police force, fire, justice system, are on people's minds at this time. And when they find that I'm interested in our safety, they listen. And then we get into other conversations and find other common bonds. And as you know, on the state level, we don't get involved with local politics, which includes the police. But we do have the opportunity to encourage the best people taking those positions by ensuring good retirement programs, et cetera, and being proactive in finding a uniform system of how police are to operate in our communities.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
You have, we're not divided. Black Lives Matter, support the police, need for change in how we enforce. We really, when you come together, you find, yes, we want equality. Who doesn't? We support that. We advocate for it. We support and advocate the police in every regard. Are there things that can be done to improve how they operate? Absolutely.
And so, what are those? And to create a dialogue on the real issues.
Bring all the people together and find a way that we can find that brighter future. Because here in America, we are better for having learned from our history and moving forward. There's no other country in the world that's like us. So we can't ignore the history. That's what we learn from. But as we move forward, we build on that history and improve. I
think that's great. Let me ask you, we've only got a few more minutes, so let me ask you just kind of a fun question. What was the most surprising thing about running for office? Like, what is it that surprised you and that people watching may not realize something you didn't anticipate when you signed up to do this?
Well, what I'm not seeing this time that I've experienced in the past is some of the pushback.
Good.
I have yet to see
Good.
any pushback on the ideals that I'm bringing to support and advocate for on the Hill. And to me, that suggests that I am listening. I have a life of having friends in broad spectrum, and I understand the different parts of life that we're engaged in. And so I can take from my life experiences and say, I understand what you're experiencing. I know how to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's advocate for that and make the world a little better place.
When you're up in the, I'm hoping that people vote for you. You're elected. You're the next member of the House for your district.
Thank you.
When you're up there, what's kind of the first thing that you'd like to tackle? I mean, if you could kind of list I know you've got probably 100 things that you'd like to see, and like, what would be kind of the first one if you could sort of
Derek,
pinpoint that?
this comes from my heart. I don't have a personal agenda, so I'm not going to go up there with any axe to grind. But in my life experience, I've spent over 16 years protecting critical lands and open space. What I learned while I served on the Quality Growth Commission for 8 years under John Huntsman's appointment is that we underfund the opportunity to protect our great outdoors.
Open space, yeah.
And so one of the things that I will advocate strongly for is our outdoors, and increasing the funding that expands our opportunity, because we share in asking for money from different organizations, from the federal government down to individual donors. So I would like to see the Quality Growth Commission gets a larger funding. So I do have something on a personal level. Two, I served on the Utah State Parks, which protects the great outdoors. I'd like to make sure that we have the ability to maintain those parks for our residents and those that come to recreate here in Utah.
That's great. That's great. Since we're in that same area, I see that open space is a huge issue.
It's part of my heart.
And you know what's interesting is I think the only candidate I've heard in a long time who's talking about that issue. That's just not something that you hear as many people talk about. So yeah. I love to hear that. Well, in wrapping up, let me ask kind of the hardest question. Yeah. And that is, sometimes the most difficult part of campaigning is when you see someone and you've got like 20 or 30 seconds to say, here's why you should vote for me. So can you do that? If you were to step in an elevator with someone and you had from floor 5 to floor 20 and you had, they said, well, why should I vote for you? Yeah. This is your chance. Help people understand why Jaren Davis for this seat.
Derek, I would start by telling people that I care, that I truly do love people, that I love our state, and that I want to leave a legacy that is better than what I lived in for the children and grandchildren that are following me. I would suggest to them that I was taught by my father in 1986 to volunteer and give back to our community. And from that day till today, I have served in a capacity, whether it be local, state, or national, in serving our communities. I have lived a life of service. I have no agenda on the Hill in terms of building a resume or doing anything that would further my career in politics, anything. I have one ambition and one goal: to give back, to serve the people of Utah, and to make a difference.
I love it. That's great. Well, I appreciate those of you who have joined us today for this chat with Jaren Davis. From firsthand, I know people who have served with Jaren, know him well, and I know of your service. And also, it's helpful to have someone who gets to the House of Representatives and has the background to just get running immediately. And for someone like yourself with your background, I don't think the learning curve won't be as steep. And so the people of Cottonwood Heights and the District 46, Midvale, Murray, remind me what am I missing? Holiday as well. You'll hit the ground running. There will be very little of that. And so on behalf of the Utah Republican Party, I'd like to thank you for being here today and encourage those of you watching to be sure to cast your vote for Jaren Davis this October. If you receive your ballot in the mail, you will receive it in the mail, so it'll be in October. And we appreciate you tuning in. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.